The following episode was recorded in front of a live streaming audience on Sunday, January the 25th, 2026.
You know who you are? Steeven is my name. Even Steeven.
Will you say something, Steeven?
Steeven or Else Media.
You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 95, The Radioactive Man. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steeven, and 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore. Ed, hi.
Howdy. Just sitting here trying to stay warm.
Did you listen to the trailer I put out for the Comic Book Super Show? Our
Yes, I did.
Podcast?
Yes, I did.
How I stole your voice?
Yes, you did. Yeah. My people will be in touch. Yeah,
that was a last minute thing. It's like I want Ed to be in this trailer, but I don't have time to schedule something and sit down with him record.
I can't imagine what you could put together using AI with all of the podcasts that you have, clipping words that I have said. Because I'm sure I've said several thousand different words that you could piece together, and who knows what I could say.
Billy D's in the house.
Billy D
here. So for those of you listening to the podcast, we have Savon, Bill from Long Island, and Billy D from Monsters and Magazines. Magazines and Monsters?
Magazines and Monsters.
Yes, okay.
Magazines first.
Sorry, Billy D.
Bills Unite.
Says Bill from Long Island, yeah. So we are in the middle of a big winter snowstorm that has swept from Texas to the Northeast, Middle East. Middle East, is that a thing?
It's all the way up into New England.
Yeah.
So it's like most of the country from like Maine over to like the eastern or the western side of Texas. Like it's just
yeah. I was supposed to go into Pittsburgh, Kansas this weekend because my daughter is back at school. She's been back all week, but forgot to take a couple things with her, and so I was just going to drive down this weekend and bring them. And no, that didn't happen. So.
Not this weekend. No.
Yeah. All right. Before we get into the actual issue or the story that we're going to talk about today, I have got a couple emails to share, some feedback. So our first email comes from Matthew Cody. He's the host of the Superman Radio Revisited podcast. He plays the old Superman radio shows, and then he comments on them afterwards. It's a pretty fun little show.
Yeah.
And why did I say little show? That sounds really condescending, doesn't it?
We're old, and little has different connotations. You know,
it's a humorous little show.
When Grandma and Grandpa use the word little, you know, that's us. That's us now. We're that age.
It's a fun, huge show.
Okay, now you're sounding kind of like some porn weirdo or something. Yeah.
All right, but he says, "Hey guys, I'm enjoying the podcast, and I hope you had a Merry Christmas and have a Happy New Year. Some questions came up in the last episode about Superman's origin and whether or not the daily newspaper strip had started yet. I meant to look this up in regard to which episode he's referring to as the last.
I remember that coming up. We were just wondering this and that as far as what was going on in the comic, and we were wondering if it had already been that way or if it had started in the radio. Or
it couldn't have been, as far as this episode, it wouldn't have been the last. The last one would have been the Christmas episode.
Mm-hmm.
So I bet it was episode 93.
Which he also references, but he says he hadn't read that. He did listen to it, so.
Yeah. All right, so he continues. The newspaper strip started January 16th, 1939, and the first storyline did flesh out the origin and included Jor-El and Laura, as Superman's parents were known then. I think you can read it for free online if you search for it. The first episode of the radio show aired February 12th, 1940, and the first episode was all about the origin. I haven't read The Christmas Adventure, published in 1944, but it was fun listening to you guys cover that. So I guess he was talking about our previous episode, which is 94. I can see why the second Christmas special didn't get reprinted like the first one over the years. Your friend, Matt.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to say something. Oh, yeah, Matt, this was the email that gave me the idea for that I emailed you about for our episode number 100.
Right.
Because I was able to locate that first, collection of the daily strips, the only collection I think that they published. But it's got each storyline separated out as episodes. And I thought it'd be fun if we talked about that first one, which was the first published origin of Superman that features Jor-El and Laura at the time, not Lara. So something I guess we can all look forward to. So I said it like that. All right. We have one more email. Comes from Sivan, who is listening right now, or at least viewing. Hi, my name is Sivan, and I consider myself a Superman fan, yet I've never read a comic book, Superman or otherwise.
Wow.
Comic book, yeah, right? Comic books. Do you see what the third word there is? Weren't. So my brain always does that. I'm saying
you combine.
But I'm thinking about that next word. Comic books weren't really around when I was growing up, and I struggle to enjoy the format. That knowledge gap started to really bother me, and that's when I found your podcast. I only started listening in October at one-time speed, by the way. Awesome. And I'm now all caught up. I feel like the podcast is bridging that gap for me, and it's also just great fun to listen to, so thank you. And maybe now that I'm up to pace, you might catch me at a live stream, times permitting. We caught you.
Could be.
Wow, best regards from 6,000 miles over to your right, Sivan. So
that means Sivan is not in the U.S.?
That's what I'm assuming.
Wow.
6,000 miles to my right. I'd get out a map, but that sounds like a lot of work.
Where are you located, Sivan, if I may ask? Just a country is fine. Or a continent even. The Middle East. Oh, okay. Shit. What time is it? Your place? What time is it there?
Israel.
Oh, he's in Israel. Cool beans. Okay. I don't know that we have ever seen. So it's
20. So
it's in the evening. So it's 7 hours.
8. 13,
yeah, that's 6:20 p.m.
6:20 p.m. Yep.
So you're 7 hours. That's not too bad. You're not having to do something weird. Just stay up and listen to us. So that's cool. Okay.
Me, on the other hand, I had to drag myself out of bed to do this.
Yeah, 11 o'clock is tough for Steven. No.
At 10 o'clock for me, buddy. I'm
that's right. I'm sorry. Yeah, 11 o'clock my time.
I was getting up with the chickens.
4 hours beforehand. Yeah.
Yeah. Sivan says, no, this is a great time.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Cool beans. That's awesome. Superman Super goes, absolutely. That's it. That's what we are. We are worldwide. And I think we can say that. Yeah,
Super Show goes international.
And I want to say too, it kind of makes me feel whatever positively that that Sivan is using the show to fill in a knowledge gap.
Yeah,
because that's kind of what I envisioned with the show. Is you don't necessarily have to read along, but if you want to, that's cool. But if you are doing some other readings, perhaps, this would introduce you and catch you up with, the the firstest appearances of Superman. So that's kind of cool that is actually working out for one of our listeners. I appreciate that. Thank you for saying so.
And may I ask, Sivan, because Ed and I are in the same age group, and I'm fairly certain that Bill from Long Island and Billy D are also in our age group. Are you under 20, over 20? And if you're over 20, are you 20 to 30, 30 to 40?
Most of us, I think, are in our 50s-ish.
Yes.
Around in there as
Bill from Long Island is 55.
Is 55. Okay. Yeah. So all of us are 50-ish.
I turned 55 this year.
Early 30s. Wow. Okay. Awesome.
Right on. That's so not only is she getting into Superman and starting at the beginning, it gives you hope for the future, doesn't it?
There you go.
Doesn't it? It's like when I find out there's a number of years back when after I got married and we started to have kids, I think it was after Rana was born and Palin was on the way, I was working a second job delivering pizzas.
Okay.
And practically everybody I worked with were teenagers.
Yeah.
And at one point, I'm in the back. When you're not delivering pizzas, you're washing pizza pans. So I'm back there washing pizza pans, and I got my iPod and got it hooked up to the radio, and I'm listening to some old metal, hair metal, Warrant and stuff like that, Bon Jovi and crap. And this teenager comes back, 15 years old, and he starts singing along. And I'm like, no, you don't know Warrant. And he starts naming off all this music he listens to, and I'm like, gives me hope for the future.
You do know Warrant. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The
hope.
music won't die with me.
Yeah. All right. Today we're looking at the Radioactive Man, the Superman tale that appeared in Action Comics number 39. It was written by Jerry Siegel with art by Leo Nowak. It had a cover date of August 1941, but according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics at mikesamazingworld.com, the issue may have hit the newsstands on June 19th, 1941. And here's what happened in the story. After lab scientist Brett Bryson dies in a lab explosion, the lab owner, Frank Chalmers, is investigated for negligence. Chalmers is cleared, but a hooded man who is bulletproof begins terrorizing Metropolis. Sergeant Casey suspects Superman, but fingerprints reveal it to be the suspected dead man Bryson. Superman observes Chalmers and discovers that Bryson is alive. The explosion has made the scientist's touch radioactive and left him with a week to live. Chalmers, Bryson, and their assistant Davis concocted a scheme to steal money for Bryson's soon-to-be widow. Superman exposes the scheme, but Bryson kills Chalmers when he learns his boss double-crossed him. Bryson then succumbs to the radiation poisoning. Ed, what'd you think of this one?
First, let me say that listening to that synopsis puts me in mind of some old black and white talkie. Just the way that it's set up and the things that have, that so much sounds like not necessarily the individual segments of a reel, but an actual movie, a main movie that could have come on. So a couple things about the cover starting off comes to mind right away. First, at the very top, world's largest selling comic magazine. Now, immediately, and I have no way, I couldn't quickly, because I just read this morning and I couldn't quickly do the research, but I wondered about Captain Marvel because not in Wiz Comics, but I know that when he got his eponymously named book, it sold over 1 million copies a pop, 1 million issues a pop for months and months and months and years. So it's like, so if Captain Marvel, now at this time, Wiz Comics is where Captain Marvel was. I don't know if Wiz Comics quite had that reach. It might not have happened until he got his own title and he was already popular and so I question that. I don't know. There's a Marvel book that for years and years had, what did it say? The world's greatest comic magazine at the top.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? So, okay. The other thing that came to mind when I looked at this cover is, wow, this absolutely has nothing to do with the Superman story that we read. It's an image of Superman descending onto an emplacement where there are a couple of the huge searchlights that they used to spot aircraft at night during World War II, and an anti-aircraft gun in the background. And there's a couple aircraft drawn up here in the corner so that you actually realize what's going on. I can't tell. I suppose they're not Allied soldiers because the way he's coming down at that searchlight, like he's going to stop it from functioning somehow.
Yeah.
But there are no, there's a marking over here on the right-hand side on the helmet, but it's not one that you can make out. So I don't know if they're Allied or Axis soldiers. I don't know. The planes don't have any markings that I can discern. But now I will say this is, of course, very heavily skewed towards World War II images at this point. What did you say this came out? June 41?
41, yep.
So they were, even though his stories weren't necessarily reflecting this, boy, the covers were all in on World War II, in my mind.
Yeah, and if you're on the video and you were paying attention, I had the wrong cover up at first. I had the next issue 40. And
Spoiler.
It's got him facing a couple of tanks. So
once again, so I guess they must feel that it will help sell the magazine if they kind of skew it to what's contemporary. Why the stories aren't doing that, really, I don't know. Maybe they're not allowed to. I think we've kind of discussed this before, that maybe there was an editorial hold off on having Superman directly involved. Certainly over there, fighting directly and things like that. Bill, they do look German as opposed to our what were they called, doughboy helmets?
Bill from Long Island says the helmets look German inspired,
which would make sense that Superman is quote unquote attacking or trying to stop them.
Yeah,
probably that would make these Allied planes, and to help in their mission, he's going to knock out the searchlights. And I don't know. Maybe he was flying, and that's another issue about this story. Flying escort for the planes, because there are several occurrences in the story where dude should have been flying. It would have making things so much easier, but that's not the way they presented it, and I was so frustrated at that.
Well, and these days, over the last, I've noticed over the last 30, 40 years, the comic book industry has always, DC, whenever they would do a story that would put, like a flashback to Superman or somebody during World War II, they always had to come up with some reason why Superman never got involved.
Sure. Yeah.
Because otherwise the war would have ended.
Yeah, absolutely.
On as far as,
a day, maybe.
This was it New Frontier, maybe, that Hitler had found the Spear of Destiny, and it was kind of like the nuclear proliferation, that if you come at us with superheroes, we've got this world-ending weapon that we can use, and blah blah blah, or something. I don't remember.
Okay, what I remember is, yes, involving the Spear of Destiny, and I don't know where exactly it came up. I remember it came up quite a bit in the All-Star Squadron.
Okay.
But the Spear of Destiny allowed a sphere of influence over the Axis, Germany, all the way over to Japan, and Italy, Mussolini, that area, that if any superhero got into that sphere of influence, Hitler could control what they did. He would control them. So once the heroes knew that, of course, the very last thing that Superman would want to do is get too close and be controlled by Hitler.
Yep.
Now that's for Superman. I want to say that for somebody like the Spectre, that didn't necessarily fall true. So I don't know what held him up, unless it was just the fact that he was God's vengeance, and they just wrote that God at that time didn't want Spectre doing anything, or I'm not sure how he was held off, but I do know that using the spear of Longinus, I believe it was called, prevented the superheroes, because if they got too close, Hitler would then control them, and of course World War II definitely would have been over if Superman had been on their side, and so that's how, at least as far back as when All-Star Squadron was coming out, which was the mid to late 80s.
Okay.
That was the excuse that they used. Now, I don't know if Roy Thomas got that from somewhere else in the DC universe and used it as well, because there are, over the years, there are several individual heroes and team books that are active during World War II. So they would have all had to have had an excuse. I do remember in the early issues of All-Star Comics, there was a series of non-powered, quote-unquote, superheroes who took off their uniform of the superhero and actually enlisted and did go over and fight as us. They were just regular Joe. While
others, because a lot of the stories at this time then would have been, whether it was the street level hero, the mystery men, but they were all battling Nazis on the home front,
that was
stuff like that. So
So in All-Star Comics, the president asked for that, and then Roy Thomas really ran with that as far as the All-Star Squadron. That's exactly what the All-Star Squadron was those group of superheroes that had been asked to patrol the home front.
Yep.
And so
Bill from Long Island, I know, is reading the Invaders book.
Okay. Marvel's.
So that would be on the Marvel side. I'm interested to know, Bill, if you could quick, tell us, were those books all battles with Nazis on the home front, or were they actually going over to Europe and helping out?
Yeah,
I know Captain America did, because that was his whole deal, right?
Yeah, Captain America.
Like a sub Namor in there, and
Toro, the Human Torch,
Bill says
Bucky, and the Submariner. So I don't think that any of those guys could have turned the tide of the war if they had been over there fighting.
Yeah,
they certainly could have put a dent in a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
So, and actually,
no Superman.
Right, exactly. The Invaders has always been one of those books that interests me enough that always is at the top of my list, but I never managed to get to them yet. So.
There was nothing. Bill says there was nothing stopping them from going on into Europe, and they did.
So there we go.
Okay, cool. Right. Any other general?
Not about the cover or anything like that. Just those two things struck out: the artwork and then the best-selling pronouncement at the top.
Yeah, because that's the whole reason. Because you brought up Captain Marvel. That's the whole reason they went after Captain Marvel, is because Captain Marvel was selling so well.
Well, and Captain Marvel was created after Superman had been out. Yeah. So it very much could have been intended as a pastiche. And, if that's the case, then that is a potentially a legitimate copyright infringement, depending. Yep. Captain Marvel was magic and everything, and Superman was absolutely not magic. Actually, that's his weakness. We haven't seen it, but, so it's like, yeah, he's this, but it's for different reasons. And so I don't know. I don't think that that's close enough, but yeah.
Yeah. It's one of those, you're never going to know the true answer unless there's something written down somewhere. But
probably unless you were there.
Yeah.
And you were in the courtroom, you heard the arguments, you heard whatever the judge said, whatever. Otherwise, anything you read is going to be slanted by whether or not you're the winner or not, because something that I read somewhere and it is so true. The winner always is who writes the history.
Yeah, history is written by the winners. Yep.
Yeah, always. So it's like, yeah. So
once you realize that, it's like,
it gives you kind of fresh eyes with anything about any kind of combat that you read, whether it's business, economic front, actual military. It's like, history is always written by the winner. Well, that doesn't seem right. I mean, Anyways, kind of slanted.
You ready to take us through this freaking issue?
Yes, sir.
Let's do it.
So we open with a third page, or a third of a page splash page. So they're reducing the size of the splash a little bit here, I've noticed. Superman is, you see him there if you're watching the video. If not on the podcast, then you're not seeing him. But Superman is zooming down, and since he doesn't fly, he's just falling. He's not flying down towards the car. He's just jumped up and has managed, I don't know. But he's being shot at by a nicely purple car with a Klutz Klan looking. I'm sorry, but that's what he reminds me of. Yeah. And maybe that's my own issue about it. But I thought you guys could have done it a little bit better or something. I don't know.
They just didn't give him a pointed hood. That's otherwise,
Yes, that's true. Yeah. Shooting up at Superman so obviously he's trying to get away from Superman. Superman has honed in on him, and he's trying to probably stop what you would presume at this point in reading is the bad guy or a bad guy, because he's shooting at Superman. I don't think we've had any good guys shoot at Superman yet. So there we go. We start out in Chalmers Laboratories. A lot of dudes, a lot of names here. So we have Frank Chalmers. He's the gentleman here in the second panel in the green suit, all the way over to the left-hand side.
He's the only one with a mustache.
Mustache, yes. We have Davis, and that's the only reference I ever found in the story was his last name, in the brown suit with the red tie.
He's bald.
in the armored anti-radiation getup is Brett Bryson. Now, Brett Bryson is basically the key character in the story other than Superman. He is where the focus is. Kind of a spoiler giving it away, but we'll get into that. So Chalmers Laboratories, they're running experiments on radium. At this time, radium is known to be highly radioactive. It holds all of these wonderful potentials to be used as an energy source, but it's still very mysterious and still known to be very hard on biologics. It doesn't interact with biology very well. And it, kind of as an aside, back several years ago, I got an interest in the atomic race that was happening prior to and right after our invention of and usage of the atomic bomb. In American pop culture, you see a lot of references to the 40s through the late 50s, maybe early 60s being the atomic age, because the atom and atom smashing and atomic energy was brand new to us. And we had seen militarily what it could do. And of course, the thought was, man, if we could harness that and use it for good, what good we could accomplish. To the extent that there were advertisements of one day walking around with nuclear piles on your back, powering things that you're doing.
Wow.
Nuclear reactors in your car, powering your car. And I mean, just all, and today it's like, no way. But back then, they didn't know. They were just imagining what was possible. Now, of course, this was also the time period where you had flying cars and pop culture and all these other things that definitely should have been happening by now as far as what's going to happen in the future. Yeah. So, those things always fascinate me. The commercials you see about what kitchens are going to be like and what the robots or the automatic stuff, automation that is going to be like in the 1980s and the 1990s.
Bill from Long Island says Fallout. I'm assuming he's referring to the video game or the show based on the video game. That's the only thing about Fallout I know. And it's very
Sivan has a very good point. I want that too.
Yeah, not these stupid actual boards with wheels.
No,
they call hoverboards.
I want a hoverboard.
Yeah.
I went to the movie and saw that, and it was immediately the thing that I wanted out of that movie. I want that. His girlfriend I thought was kind of cute too, but I wanted the hoverboard.
So. Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay, sorry guys. So we are in the laboratories. We're testing radium, and there's an accident. Suddenly, an error, a miscalculation. There is a devastating explosion, a weird bombardment of hurtling rays. Saying all kinds of things there. I don't think that they actually knew what would happen. They were just describing
this comic book
thing. Yeah. So immediately we have Chalmers grabbing up a phone and calling the equivalent of 911. I don't know. He's called probably the police. I think that's where most emergency calls at the time would go. They get a call. They send police there. Chalmers answers. Looks like Clark is. I don't know if that's Clark or not. There in the panel at the police station, there's a dude with glasses.
Yeah.
And then the next couple panels, there's a dude in a brown hat with glasses. And actually looking at into the where they go to the
Lois
newspaper offices. This is Lois, and you can't see the dude in the brown hat to see if it's the blue suit that Clark is wearing. I'll bet it is. I'll go ahead and say
that's gotta be Clark, because you got the first panel at the police station with the guy with the glasses. That's probably Clark. Second panel, guy with the brown hat, probably Clark. They're at the laboratory at that point. The third panel, they're still at the laboratory, and that is obviously Lois Lane.
Lois, yeah. So Clark must have just been hanging out at the police station when the call came in, and then decided. As a newspaper man, he would go with them to cover whatever was going on. It was so tragic. And so.
The Superman Super Show will return after these messages.
Hey folks, if you're enjoying the Superman Super Show, you should check out our new podcast, The Comic Book Super Show. This is a season-by-season podcast where each arc gets the spotlight it deserves. One storyline per season, one issue per episode. No skimming, no skipping ahead, just full-on, in-depth comic book conversation. In other words, in each episode, Ed and I are going to read an issue, then take it apart panel by panel. We talk story, we talk art, we talk creators, we talk about what works and what doesn't, and why these stories stuck with us in the first place. There will be strong opinions, plenty of humor, and more than a few tangents along the way. Season 1 takes us back to 1984 to Kitty Pryde and Wolverine, the 6-issue Marvel miniseries that tossed a teenage mutant and a grizzled berserker into a globe-trotting, neon-lit, pop culture-soaked adventure. Together, they take on ninjas, assassins, and their own unresolved trauma, all wrapped up in a story that feels unmistakably of its time, yet strangely timeless. Across 6 episodes, we're going to unpack every issue of this miniseries in detail. And yes, we will get sidetracked, but that's only because the Comic Book Super Show isn't just about analysis. It's about conversation, the kind you'd have sitting around a table, comics spread out, arguing over whether a single panel changes everything or whether Wolverine should ever be allowed to wear a suit. If you're a longtime X-Men fan, this first season is a deep dive into a beloved classic. But if you've never read Kitty Pryde and Wolverine, this is your invitation to read along with us, one issue at a time. Subscribe, queue up that first episode, crack open an old copy or a digital reprint, and come along for the ride as Ed and I read, riff, and celebrate the comic books that hooked us for life. The Comic Book Super Show. Subscribe now wherever you get your podcast.
And now back to the Superman Super Show.
So we split up here. We go to the district attorney's office out of like nowhere, kind of. But if you read the story, you see why they inserted this. But I don't know that it really furthered the story too much. There's an upcoming there's an upcoming election. Excuse me. And the district attorney is Tom Spaulding, and he figures his chances of re-election are not looking good right now. But if I can take this case of malfeasance at the laboratory that this accident just occurred at, and I can run it through the court system and make it a big thing, I'll win this big case. And that'll get me enough popularity right before election to put me over the top and be re-elected. So that's what he's going to do. He's going to pursue and win this from the government's side, regardless of if they're right or wrong. He's going to take the government. He's going, whatever their argument is, he's going to show that they're right and win this court case for them, and he'll be reelected. Next up, we see Clark and Lois interviewing Chalmers, who was there the day of the accident. He was one of the gentlemen in the control room watching the experiments. Election time approaching, Tom, and I'm afraid you haven't much. I'm looking to see who this was talking to the district attorney. I'll charge his employer, Frank Chalmers. Brown suit. Is that Davis, maybe? Maybe Davis went to push for the district attorney to take this charge. Chalmers, who was the owner, operator of the laboratory, proved that he was guilty. When you find out what is going on, that kind of makes sense because the two of them are working together towards a goal. And one of them is thinking, well, if I get rid of my quote unquote partner, then I will achieve the goal by myself. And so in order to do that, I'll go get the district attorney, sick him on my partner, get my partner out of the way. In retrospect, I think maybe that's what's going on here.
Yeah, I neither of these guys, well, the guy that you can't see his face, that would be District Attorney Tom Spaulding.
Mm-hmm.
The guy he's talking to, smoking on a cigarette or whatever, he doesn't seem to have a mustache, so he can't be Davis.
No, you're right. Yeah, it shouldn't be Davis then.
He might be a judge. He might be an assistant district attorney. Who knows? Yeah.
So the next panel is Clark and Lois talking to Chalmers. They're letting him know what's going on, and Lois is keying him in. Spaulding is using you as a means to secure his reelection, just like I explained. Next panel, we go to the actual trial, where Spaulding really is hammering Bryson's wife as far as, look at what has happened, look how bad it is, and this is the man who's responsible. It's his fault. And I think she kind of gets caught up in it. I don't think she's mourning the death of her husband. I don't think she's really had too much time by the way these things happen in the comic, one after the other, to really figure out or even form an opinion about what happened, other than her husband's gone.
Yeah.
And here's this man in the courtroom saying, oh, it's terrible that your husband's gone. I acknowledge that. And it's his fault, and you should blame him, and everybody should blame him, and he should be punished for it. And so he's using the victim as impetus to prove the guilt of someone else, which nowadays I think would be kind of iffy if that's how you did it. I mean, they'll do that to some extent, but you have to be really careful in shaming like that. It doesn't necessarily work out in today's court system. Chalmers is on the stand now, giving a portion of his view of what happened. We find out that the jury, next panel, returns a not guilty verdict. So Chalmers is off the hook as far as being solely responsible for what happened. His laboratory, and by extension him, is not guilty. It was truly just an accident, I would assume, according to what the jury thought. Well, as we go through, we're going to find out, perhaps that's not the case. But first, we have our big bad. Gentleman walking around, completely decked out, except for, like you said, the pointy hat, like a Ku Klux Klansman. Ku Klux Klan, yep. Ku Klux
Klan. All right, and I got to look it up.
Yeah, KL both times, Ku Klux or Ku Klux. Yeah, fortunately, I don't know. So I take that as a good thing.
Ku Klux Klan.
Okay, so it's KU and then KL, Ku Klux. Okay. And so he's doing something, and let's see, does it tell us here what he's a shadow? He sneaks up on the policeman, and the policeman shoots him. Well, he is in the jewelry store. So apparently he was thought to be doing something nefarious, either by happenstance or by alarm. Perhaps the police were there. They tried to stop him.
I think that's a security guard. Night watchman.
Night watchman. Okay. So he's doing his rounds. Somebody is in the jewelry store that obviously isn't supposed to be. And he's dressed kind of funky on top of that. So policeman shoots him, kind of like they do in Minnesota. I'm sorry. Yeah, way too soon. Sorry. And finds out that it has no effect. For whatever reason, he runs up. When he doesn't go down with a bullet, he decides, well, I'm going to take the mask off and see. Yeah. And he is frightened by the face of the gentleman. I assume gentleman at this point. We really don't know. He's kind of drawn, kind of burly, like a dude, I would assume would be at this time. At this time.
I like the way that they're laughing. The guy's screaming because of his face. Oh, his face. And they're going, hee.
He's giggling. Yeah, that definitely is a giggle. And says the watchman goes limp. The hooded figure hurries into the jewelry establishment. With his last remaining ounce of strength, the watchman sets off the alarm. So, I guess because of the horribleness of the face, he must have passed out from fright. On the way to the floor, he happened to grab the alarm, sets it off. So more police respond. They find him, the watchman, and he tells them, I shot at him, but the bullets didn't hurt him. The one officer, which I'll go out on a limb and say is probably Officer Casey, because that seems to be the only policeman in all of Metropolis.
Yeah.
He's delirious, and he looks in a bad way. Better rush him to the hospital. So as far as we know, he just passed out from fright. There may be something more to it. But because he says, I shot him and the bullets didn't have any effect, does he say they? Yeah, that's what he says. He says, I shot him and the bullets didn't have any effect. The extension of that is that the bullets bounced off of him. Now, what's to say that the bullets did hit him and enter his body, but it just didn't hurt him enough? I don't know. Yeah. But because the bullets bounce off of him, Casey automatically assumes, well, this has got to be Superman. That's the only person in the whole wide world that I know of that it could be that way. So in his head, regardless of what's happened the last 94 stories that we've read, Superman is a bad guy, and this is him doing this, which I was kind of disappointed in that.
Well, I mean, we don't ever see cops rush to judgment and focus on one person.
No.
We also learn here that the night watchman died of radium burns.
Yes, in the panel between when they get him and when, well, I was about to get there. I hadn't get so. Anyways, Lois and Clark go to Casey to find out more about this case. Between those two panels, we have a snapshot of a newspaper. The headline says, "Watchman in robbery dies of radium burns." Now, that's interesting because what we see later, as far as people suffering from radium burns, we didn't necessarily see happen here. So I guess right now this would be because of the proximity to this person.
When he rips the guy's mask off, it does say that the two figures struggle.
Okay. So there could,
he could have,
there could be some contact there.
Yeah.
Okay. So Lois and Clark go. Casey says, "Oh, well, we're looking for Superman. He's obviously the one that did it." And but Lois is a little hesitant. And of course, Clark is like, no, Superman didn't do this. That's what he's thinking. He's thinking, well, okay, so I need to don the suit and go prove my innocence. So, next we have several panels here in kind of a collage of the bad guy, the radiation man, or radium man.
They never refer to him in the story as the radioactive man. They always refer to him as a ghost.
What did your synopsis call him? Was it Radioactive Man? Is that what
the title of the story is? The Radioactive Man.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
So the Radioactive Man is stealing some other places. He's got a bank sack in one hand. He's breaking into a vault, and he's stealing jewelry here. Now, let me point out, if as it says later on in the story, his hands are transmitting this radiation that he has, holding his hand on this dude's forehead cannot be a good thing.
No.
This dude is not going to just die from radiation burns. He's got like scrambled eggs in his head now from where they got fried.
Yeah.
Because so, and this is not meant to be religious in any way he just in the head. Yeah. So now one of these robberies, as he's running away, he is seen, and the person that saw him, the witness, calls in to the police that he just saw the ghost, the radioactive man, running around here in the corner. I know where he is, and I'm trying to get my reward money. That's probably what he's up to. He's not just being a good citizen. Clark, sitting at home in his jacket, in his shirt, in his tie, reading the newspaper, hears the initial call go out over the radio. Although a radio, it's got to be a scanner because the calls aren't going to go over unless he's got a police radio there.
Yeah, I just assumed he was in the office, but if it's nighttime, I guess he would be home.
Well, he's in an armchair. Is he really going to have an armchair in his office?
That's true.
So, and I do want to add, sitting at home in a suit. Okay, Bill, a very good point. In my lifetime, I have had 2 different jobs that I had to wear a tie. Let me tell you, when I got home, the first thing that came off before my shoes was that MFN tie.
Yeah.
I hated ties. I'm home and I want to be comfortable. Why am I going to keep my tie? Well, Clark does.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and because Bill from Long Island says, sitting at home in a suit, as one does, I can't help but think about Leave It to Beaver. And I know Ward Cleaver would come home in his suit. He'd sit down in that easy chair and read the paper with his suit on.
Until he was in bed with the wife.
Yeah.
Every time we saw him, he had that suit on. So I don't know. Not me.
It's just the way it was.
So I guess.
Or at least that's what media wanted us to think.
Yes, that this is their thought about how normal America lives, is in their suit at home. Yeah. So
they take off their hat because they're indoors, but
and their shoes probably. The shoes are dirty. So
yeah, Bill from Long Island. Yeah, change the suit jacket for a sweater and get your pipe.
Get a pipe. Yeah,
that's true. Did that too. Yeah.
So we see Clark change into Superman, and he falls out his window because he's not flying yet. So he doesn't fly out the window.
That's the weird thing about this story. There's a couple of times where it's like, all right, well, obviously they haven't keyed into the fact that he's flying yet. But then there's other parts where it's like, okay, he's obviously flying. So why didn't they have him flying?
He couldn't do that if he wasn't flying.
Exactly. Yeah, weird.
And that's the same kind of argument that we have run into before. There are times where it's like, oh yeah, he could just be jumping up and down or leaping or whatever. But this right here, this way, that he has to be flying.
We just have to remember that while today it's common knowledge that looking back at the Superman stories, everyone has decided that it was in that one story in Superman issue number 10 is where he officially started flying.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean that they said that back then.
Right.
I don't think they had any idea what they were doing back then.
That's an accepted thing by people expressing their opinion. Yeah. It's not where, well, we know because the writer or the editor or whatever made the comment. There's no definitive. It's just this consensus, and it's like, well, I can't argue that that's the case. So that's just again, that's just mostly fan consensus. But this and. It's been hit and miss in a lot of stories, but in this story, it really seemed that there were instances where it was A and B. They just couldn't figure it out, or they didn't care enough to,
That's exactly what happens in this story. I'll point them out when we get to them.
So he exits his apartment through the window. Okay, I'm going to say he just dives out.
Yeah.
Now. This is the panel is a downward, so it's kind of supported that he just dove out the window by the way that this is drawn. No big deal. He can just pull up and land safely because he's Superman, super strong, whatever. So, okay. The next panel shows the radioactive man climbing up a fire escape to the top of a building. He's running from a security guard, which I guess this is still related to the gentleman that called him in. The alley beside the Gallagher Company's place. So from that call, a patrolman or maybe another night watchman is on his trail, and he's following him much more closely. Next panel, we see the policeman climbing up the fire escape also. At the top, the radioactive man is about to get away, it looks like. But when he sees that the policeman has gotten to the top of the rooftop with him, he must turn and face the policeman directly, because in the one panel you see there at the top middle, he's in a door about to enter the building and probably go on back down to street level. Then the next panel, they're still on the rooftop, you can see by the buildings, and he's confronting the policeman. So I guess... go ahead.
Finish your thought.
I guess he thought, well, the dude is close enough to me now, there's no reason to run anymore, I need to turn and face him.
Well, I think it's because the cop is telling him, raise your hands, or the night watchman. Yeah, cop.
Oh.
Raise your hands and no funny business. And he's like, he could have just went, screw you, and kept running.
Well, the policeman isn't going to hit him that far away.
Right.
We know that law enforcement in the media, not in real life, can't hit somebody like that. I mean, look remember the A-Team.
Right.
The A-Team is classic.
Well, I think it just proves that this guy, this radioactive man, he doesn't need to kill this man. He doesn't need to go after the cop. He doesn't need to turn around and go after him.
But he does.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
That tells you a lot about who this guy is.
So next panel, we see Superman plummeting at this point. That's all you can say about what he's doing there. He's just falling. In time to see the radioactive man and the policeman confrontation on the rooftop, the radioactive man has grabbed up the policeman and he's going to throw him over the roof as Superman is approaching. By the way it's drawn, it looks like the radioactive man sees Superman approaching.
Yeah.
And so to test him or give him something to think about, he chucks the policeman over the edge, and Superman says probably what radioactive man was hoping. Superman, as he adjusts his fall and continues plummeting over the roof where the guy is going, the policeman. I'll attend to the spook later. Right now, I've got to see to it that no harm comes to the policeman. So the assumption is that was the decision that Radioactive Man wanted Superman to make when he threw the innocent off the roof. So Superman does. He now here's this he could be flying. Okay, whatever. But he's falling after the policeman. He catches him, and then But he says, seizing the officer's foot, Superman succeeds in swinging his body out of harm's way in time. But in order to, the policeman is going to apparently hit a ledge. He must have gone over the edge of the building, just very close to the building. So he's going to hit a ledge on one of the stories there below. Superman grabs him and swings him out of way in time. But to stop the fall of the two of them, Superman grabs a flagpole. So this is showing you that Superman is not flying at this time because...
Yeah, exactly. Everything up to this point, you could even say when he jumped out his window, he could have swooped back up. That's why he was up above in the previous page, and he sees them and he swoops down. But then, why does he need to grab the flagpole? Because he doesn't fly? But then there's going to be another scene coming up where it's like, okay, but he's obviously flying here. So, They had no idea what they were doing.
And they couldn't even consistently stick to one thought about what he does in the air. So he grabs the flagpole to stop, but his weight and the weight of the officer and the speed it breaks the flagpole. Not that it matters really, because as long as he can get turned feet down as he falls, he is strong enough that the fall isn't going to damage him. And I don't know. I would think the sudden stop, even though he's holding the police officer, could conceivably cut the police officer in half, or because he's holding it. Yeah, but no, he's cushioned enough that it saves the police officer. So everybody lands. Superman's tremendous muscles cushion the shock of the fall as he strikes the earth, which is good for him. But that doesn't explain physics. How he didn't hurt the dude with just his arm and then the sudden stop across and
if you look at the whole page, so first he reaches out and grabs the guy by the ankle and then swings him so he doesn't hit. He either probably broke his ankle,
dislocated a hip,
pulled his leg out of the socket, whatever. Yeah, and then obviously by the next panel he's flung him around so the guy spins, and then he grabs him by the forearm. Right. Probably yanking that arm out of the socket. And then, he just really, at the least, screwed up his back.
Something. That poor guy. Maybe he's glad to be alive. Yeah. Maybe he's not. I don't know. So Superman jumps back up to the roof to pursue the Radioactive Man, because the last time he saw him was on that roof. And you see the entry to the building that they're in, and you see that the door is open.
Sivan says, physics. Is that why I don't have my hoverboard? Probably.
Probably. Yeah, I don't know. I'm still kind of sore about the hoverboard. But other policemen gather down on the ground to speak to the dude who is messed up by having been rescued by Superman. I don't know. He could also be suffering from the initial stages of the radiation poisoning that other people that have confronted Radioactive Man seem to contract. I don't know. But he says in there, Superman. Now, if this is Officer Casey, which I presume it is, that just furthers his contention that this is being caused by Superman. He is the bad guy. Although we just saw, and this policeman saw, the dude in the Ku Klux Klan outfit and Superman, he knows that they are two different entities because he saw them both. Casey has not seen essentially either one, really. So Superman goes to the top and makes his way down to the bottom where all the officers are gathered, not having encountered the Radioactive Man. So he has escaped as far as he knows. But he does confront the police about not being the bad guy. Casey has the patrolman with him convinced as well. So there's a little scuffle between them and Superman. Superman jumps away here in the next panel. Meanwhile, story cuts to the Radioactive Man that we see which I don't know why this panel is there, but we see him just running away. He got away. We knew he got away when Superman couldn't find him. But I do like the shots of the headlines of the newspaper because it fills in things potentially that we haven't seen nice and quickly. I mean, it's like a one-panel info dump.
And it helps because my first thought, of course, was this. So this police officer that Superman saves, and he goes, "In there, Superman." Wouldn't it make sense that if he didn't die, he would have went, no, that's not what I'm saying, guys.
Right.
But so we learn, he died. That was probably the last thing he said was, "In there, Superman." And then,
So Casey's like, "See, I told you Superman wasn't." It's like, well, yeah, of course he's involved. He's the hero. But policeman dies of radium burns after encounter with Superman. My question is, at this time, have they really done enough study of radiation that they can discern the different types of burns by exposure to different radioactive elements? How do they know it's a radium burn?
Good question.
Rather than just radiation burn.
Yeah.
Because no matter what you're exposed to, typically you hear the diagnosis as radiation sickness, not radium sickness or uranium sickness or thorium sickness. It's radiation. Yeah. So here the morning pictorial has the headline, and you tell quickly by the next panel that the morning pictorial is not where Lois and Clark work, because this newspaper, the morning pictorial, has this headline, and Lois and Clark's editor is blasting them because a rival paper got the headline. And I know you guys have been there. I know you were there at the first alarm for the laboratory when it all broke. I know you have talked to the police. I know that you were involved in following up the story. Why did they get the headline? And they mentioned, the headline after encounter with Superman, kind of making you think that he's responsible.
Yeah. Factually, it's correct.
Yes.
But it hints at something that's not correct.
Yeah. The editor gives him grief about not using Superman's name in a headline in order to sell their paper, because Lois says that she doesn't believe Superman's guilty. Well, of course, Clark is going to take the same tact. I mean, so the end result here is that the editor tells him, "Look, I don't care about your opinions." Oh, man. If only this was how newspapers work today. If this was only how any news organization in the country worked today. You're hired to report facts, not personal opinions. News.
I've been reading the John Byrne era Superman books, and I'm about halfway through the second of the 4 volumes. Mm-hmm. And there was an issue in which it wasn't one of the John Byrne issues. It was one of the Adventures of Superman. Marv Wolfman wrote those with Jerry Ordway on art. And in it, there's a crime boss who's been arrested. He's going to trial. And Perry White has been very vocal about the guy's guilt in his editorials and whatnot. And he's been printing a lot of articles showing the facts and why this guy's guilty. And we learn that it was actually the Daily Planet that did most of the investigating that dug up all these crimes, right? Okay. And so this crime boss has his men go out and kidnap Perry White's son. And then they tell Perry White, "You need to publish a retraction. Mm-hmm. Say that he is innocent and that you were wrong, or we're going to kill your son." And Perry struggles with it. Like he doesn't want to print lies, and his wife at one point is like, "What the hell is wrong with you? This is our son."
What is the question?
Just print it. You can go back later and say that, why, it's just like, but he gets to the point where he ends up publishing, I think, the lies, the retraction or something, right. But he tells his son that he really struggled with it. And his son is like, they've been kind of estranged up to this point anyway. And his son was like, "Oh, you had to think about it? You struggled with whether or not to save my life?" And he's like, "Bye, Dad." And so they really paint Perry White at that point as just a real stickler to the news. We are impartial. We don't print lies if we know it's a lie, and blah, blah, blah. And
well, it's funny that you mentioned that, because there's a definite parallel today. And instead of threatening to kill somebody, you just threaten to sue for $5 billion
Yeah.
And essentially the same thing happens. It's, so.
Amazing.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Politics are, Anyways.
I changed the name thing under my name in the middle of the show.
I see it. Yep. Watch out, man. They're gonna come and knock your door down and arrest you and then release you 3 days from now because they can't. That's what's new, Sergeant? Talking to Casey here. Clark's super. So he goes to Casey to get some more information about the article, about the story that he's putting together. Casey doesn't have anything, or the front desk officer doesn't have anything. Sergeant, which is kind of confusing because Casey's a sergeant. But I believe that what he hears is Casey talking. So this is the front desk. Nothing's going on. Probably because he's news. He's a newspaper man, and that's the pat answer. I'm not telling you anything. Nothing's going on. But while he's there, Clark uses his Superman hearing, and he hears Casey talking to another officer. Probably looks like Casey's boss. I don't know if it ever really says that. What is your investigation disclosed, Sergeant Casey? So this is, I don't know, chief of police or the commissioner, or something like that. We discovered the killer's footprints. Yeah. Killer's fingerprints on the slain officer's collar. And what's more, we've traced through civilian voluntary fingerprint records, because of course, maintaining fingerprints is an invasion of privacy. So the only way that they're going to have information about you is if you volunteer it, because they didn't have computers that they could hack and steal information from Social Security, from Health and Human Services. That's not that happens today. I mean, it's, this is fantasy, but somebody could steal and put together a big database from all these different places and use that database to, I don't know. I read about that in a story once. That could never happen. Yeah. Doge. So the dude in charge asks, who is it? There's the rub. According to the record, those fingerprints belong to Brett Bryson, but he died in the radium explosion.
What?
The killer, a dead man? Nonsense, Casey.
The Superman Super Show will return after these messages.
I believe there's a hero in all of us that keeps us honest, gives us strength, makes us noble.
And his name is
a damn fine cup of coffee.
Do you enjoy comic books? Do you perhaps enjoy reading said comics while also consuming a tasty beverage? Well, hello, my friend. I am the caffeinated Clinton Robinson, and I invite you to join me on the Coffee and Comics podcast, where I look at a random comic roughly in the span of time it takes to have a nice little coffee break. So if you enjoy casual comics discussion and references potentially even more dated and randomly strung together than the ones in this promo, be sure to check out the Coffee and Comics podcast, available on all the most brewtastic podcast apps.
Drink, I like it.
I know, it's great, right?
Another!
Hey, where are all my comic books?
Do you love podcasting but hate editing? Do you have a number of episodes recorded but just can't find the time to get them edited and ready for release? Do you need help and you're not sure what to do? Well, come talk to me. My name is Steven Orr. I have over a decade of experience recording and editing my own podcasts, and I want to put those skills to work for you. I can remove that background noise. I can reduce silences. I'll remove all of your ums and your uhs, as well as your throat clearings, sneezes, and coughs and such. And I can even add your music and whatnot. And hey, my prices are quite reasonable. Check out edityourpod.com to get started. That's edityourpod.com, or just reach out to me directly. Email edityourpod@gmail.com. Tell me what you need, and I'll tell you how I can help. And more importantly, I'll quote you a cost. edityourpod.com. Get started today.
And now back to the Superman Super Show.
So here, the all these different parts of the story start coming together. So
this is also Casey's crazy freaking hairline that from panel 2 to panel 4 just suddenly recedes across the top of his head.
Well, you know why? One of the symptoms of exposure to radiation is your hair falling out.
Plus his boss is yelling at him, stress.
Losing hair by the handful, literally, by the handful. Yep. I know it sounds phony, but fingerprints don't lie. I'm going to call on Frank Chalmers, Chief, and learn the answers to a couple questions. So, of course, Clark hears this, and he has the same idea. He strips out to Superman, goes to talk to from a cloth collar. Yeah, Bill says fingerprints lifted from a cloth collar. Yeah, apparently I guess the technology has regressed from then till now. Now that's really difficult to do. I guess it wasn't as difficult back then when they first were using fingerprint technology. So.
Maybe the bad guy had jam. He was eating like a pastry with some jam, and he had it all over his fingers.
How about this? If his hands are burning people, maybe it burned into the collar.
Yeah, very much.
And that would have made it a little easier to pick up, maybe. I don't know.
It's your no prize.
The fingerprints of Bryson were found on a murdered man. How do you explain that? Casey is saying to Chalmers. I can't. But how do you explain this? Yeah, as you can see, my life is threatened. So he got a threatening letter from somebody saying, whatever. Who knows what it said? But if he doesn't do whatever it asks, he is going to be killed. This is
the worst storytelling on this page. It took me forever to realize, he's handing him a sheet of paper. Was he threatened? Why do they not explain that in any way?
Yeah.
Everything else, it's like we'll trust our readers to understand what this means. But yeah. Also, let me just point out real quick before you start up again. I love once again the last panel on this page. Superman in the trees.
Oh yeah,
they've drawn his cape
over I was going to mention that. That's just this little thing, but it's that's kind of cool. Superman is staking out the house, and he's hiding in the tree, and so that was pretty creative. Maybe one of the more creative little gestures in the whole story was drawing his cape like that.
Yep.
So he is at Chalmers' house, right? Yeah, enters Chalmers' residence. So that's where we're at. So Casey and Superman are both at Chalmers' house. Chalmers, if you remember, was one of the men in the control room that saw the accident happen at the laboratory to begin with. Chalmers, I believe, he was also the one that was sued, so he must own the laboratory and everything like that.
I think it was called, I think his name is in the Chalmers
Laboratories or something like that. Yeah. So a little bit later, we see that the house is now staked out. They have a police presence there other than just Casey going to ask some questions. They hear a yell and they go inside and they find that Chalmers is, they don't say whether he's dead or passed out, but he's laying here.
He's talking, so he's not.
Oh, is that him? It came through the window. Okay. A hooded figure. So he's, I don't know, maybe he was attacked and just overcome, or maybe he passed out from fright or whatever. But he yells out, the police go to investigate. Superman hears, and he, as a sudden thought occurs to the Man of Tomorrow, he launches himself up into space. A fantastic possibility, but there's no harm in checking. Because he notices that something happened in the house, but there's no evidence of anybody going in. There's no tracks, there's no broken down doors or busted windows or nothing. There's no evidence that anybody from outside entered who wasn't supposed to be there already. So he goes to investigate something. They don't tell us. Superman is the smartest man in the room and goes to take care of it. However, Lois is at, she's at Bryson's house. Okay. So she sees, as she's going to talk to Bryson's widow, Mary, she sees a figure outside one of the windows, and it's the ghost in the outfit with the glowiness. Up to this moment, it appears that Supes can fly, but not hover. He seems to need forward motion like a fixed-wing aircraft rather than a helicopter. That may be what they were going for. Well, could be. And I acknowledge that momentum, if you're standing, you have no momentum to fly, and it would make sense that you would launch yourself to start that propulsion, and you would keep going. I could follow that. But that's not even, to my mind, necessarily what he does event to event when he is in the air, because again, he started out jumping. So that's the same motion as you would to start to fly as far as propulsion. Conceivably, if you needed to start the momentum, you would jump, and either you would be able to continue it or you would just go right over there and come back down, like the Hulk does, So
now that was from Bill from Long Island pointing that out.
So following Lois, she exclaims loudly enough, I guess, that it looks like the radioactive man hears her and starts chasing her. She, in trying to get away, trips and falls and is about to be touched, hands the slightest contact with which means death. So the radioactive man is caught up with her, and in the movie section, as you're watching, he is close and you see him about to grab her, and then the movie cuts and it goes to Superman. Now, it is drawn closely enough that there is no amount of anything that is going to prevent him from putting hands on her. Even if Superman were to appear right now, he is close enough that he has touched Lois by the time anything occurs. But we're left with it not having happened yet. Superman's swift flight, that's what the narrator says, swift flight, had brought him to a cemetery. And so he X-ray visions the casket of, one would assume, Brett Bryson, and it's empty.
Yep. Just as he suspected.
Yes. So seeing nobody broke into the house, that Chalmers house, but Chalmers succumbed to somebody at the window. He passed out. Now that was enough for Superman to say, I wonder if that's him. Let me go check his grave to see if he's in it, because if not, that will prove that is him. And that's because that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, my theory is that what happened with Chalmers, he knows the cops are out there staking him out, and so he needed a reason for them. He came up with a reason for them to leave. He faked that this ghost guy was there. He throws some things down on the floor. He screams. He lays down on the floor. They rush in. He was just here in the window. You guys scared him off. And then I guess the idea is that they leave to go chase this thing down. And Superman's watching the whole thing. And the Superman leap in logic is quite the leap.
I see what you're saying. So this whole scene with him is a distraction. It's fake.
Yeah.
So you're saying he faked it, and the quote unquote proof that he faked it is Superman saying that I didn't see anybody go in the house and I have been here.
Yeah.
So he faked to draw attention here because he knew that Bryson was going to be at his house, at his own house.
I think not necessarily. I think it's because we know, of course, in hindsight, we know by the end of the story that Chalmers is involved. He's a bad guy.
Right.
He knows that Brett is alive, and he now has these cops staking him out. Of course, that doesn't make any sense. Like, the reason they're doing that is because he said he got a threatening note. It doesn't make a lot of sense.
So why would he fake this?
I don't know.
He had to know that Bryson was going to be over here, and he's trying to draw attention over here by faking,
keeping the cops. Keeping the cops out of the picture so he can.
Right.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense.
So Bryson can, I guess, go and kill his wife. I mean, is that what he was going to do? It doesn't make sense that he would.
I think he's just, he's one of those sympathetic monsters. We know, again, through hindsight, that he's going to be dying soon.
Right.
So I think he was just looking through the window at his wife, going,
trying to remember what it was
so much. Yeah.
Okay. But that doesn't. There's no explanation for why Chalmers would try to distract that.
I don't know.
I mean, I can agree that the way everything is set up, that's what he was doing. But now I question why. Why was he
just trying to keep the cops guessing, keep the cops chasing something that's not there, and he can go rob somebody else or something?
Well, perhaps he knows that time is limited.
Yeah.
And if I keep them over here, hopefully he will ultimately expire and he won't be able to say anything.
Yeah, well, because there's a very ridiculous explanation coming up where I think it's the bald doctor. when they explain what really happened, I think they do say, and we discovered that he only had a week to live.
Right.
Okay. I'm not sure how you discovered that, but we'll get to it when we get to it, because the whole thing is really kind of dumb. But yeah, we got to put in a lot of guesswork here. But I think the idea that he's just trying to get the cops to chase their own tails, knowing that he just needs to give Brett a little bit more time.
Just time to let the clock tick, and he will go away, and the entire plan won't be revealed because I'm not going to speak. And so, okay. So Lois, from the sound she made or the noise that he made when he changed his attention from his wife in the house to Lois outside the house, alerts Mary. Mary comes just in time, screaming no, to save Lois from being grasped by Brett. So now Mary and Brett, formerly man and wife, I guess still man and wife and monster.
Her name's May.
May.
Aunt May.
Oh, I said Mary. May Bryson. I'm sorry.
As long as it's not Martha.
No.
How do you know that name?
Everybody is named Martha. Yeah. So, yeah, it's impossible that my mom's name is Martha if your mom's name, whatever. But, again, to keep the story going and she recognizes her husband's voice, of course, and tries to speak to him, but he says, no, forget you ever saw me, runs away. So Mary turns her attention to Lois, makes sure she's okay. Brett runs away to the middle of nowhere and starts sabotaging some train tracks. He's just racing like mad, muttering insanely to himself. The glowing figure halts at nearby railroad tracks, wrenches at the rails with his bare hands, twisting them. No life for me, kill. Death to others, kill. So he's gone crazy, and in his craziness, he decides that the best way to display that is to tear up the train tracks, because the train, if it wrecks, will kill lots of people too.
Yep.
Okay. Leaping. He's psychotic, sociopathic. I mean, some kinds of crazies that is like
he's not thinking rationally.
Leaping away, Superman cites the glowing figure's vandalism. So leaping away from the cemetery, because this is where Superman was. So we have the cemetery is near the house, is near the railroad tracks, which are out in the middle of nowhere, because this place that Superman is flying over is just countryside. There's no town, but he sees anyways, he's in the air and he is not in the air to save the train. I'll just put it like that. I got to quit going on. I'm sure people are bored of hearing my arguments of flying, not flying, whatever. So it's not consistently done at this point yet.
Yeah.
So he stops the train. And this was a perfect opportunity to see him do the under the tracks, lift it up, fix it. But no, he stops the train before it gets to that section of the tracks. And I was kind of disappointed. I'm like, oh, come on.
Yeah, but it's made up for when the engineer comes off the train is like, what's the idea? Why would you do that?
And the Superman says the tracks ahead tampered with. Now, this panel, Superman flies away.
Oh, hell, this
is not the speed lines for a jump. This is a fly away.
That's why I can, Bill from Long Island, he's theorizing the that he can fly but not hover. He needs the forward momentum. We're trying to justify. They didn't know what they were doing. Period. Boom.
Just the lack of consistency.
Yeah,
is all. I mean, if you consistently did it even if you drew it one way, we're talking about it another way. That's fine, but just be consistent in how you represent it. That's all. So he zooms to Chalmers and Davis together somewhere. I don't think we know where this is.
Yeah, we don't.
But Chalmers and Davis are talking, and then the truth is coming out here. Superman says, "So what say we have a little chat?" So far, let me just throw this out there too, Steven. I'm disappointed that we haven't had an A yet.
I know, right? I was
nowhere
for him, and not.
No.
That would have been the perfect spot too. Let's say we have a little chat, eh?
Yeah. I guess that's what brought it to mind. It's like, have a little chat.
You didn't complete your thought. Something missing.
I happen to know that Britt Bryson didn't die. I want the truth out of you, says Superman. No sense arguing with a man of your powers. Yes, Bryson lives. The radium blast didn't kill him. This is coming from
Chalmers.
Chalmers? Yeah, Chalmers. It merely affected his body in a strange way so that he could not be harmed by bullets. And how did they
This is
that?
This is exactly what I'm talking about.
And could cause sure death by his touch. How did they test that? Anyways.
Well, and it's such a weird power set, really, when you think about it.
He impervious to bullets. Now that would be helpful in stealing things.
Yes.
That's fine. But why? So the policemen try to shoot you and you don't die, but you're going to turn around and touch them so that they die?
Yeah.
That's
it's just such a weird. It's not that they could have said the radiation melts anything that comes close to it, such as any metal. So bullets can't harm it.
Melts the bullets, melts the guns. Okay.
But to just simply say that it merely affected his body in a strange way so that he could not be harmed by bullets. Why specifically bullets? It's just weird.
No A.
No
A.
Oh.
Then this glowing figure, the Superman, committing all these crimes is in reality Bryson. Yes, but you won't be able to do anything about it, as Chalmers shoots Superman with this gun, I don't know, that he had on him, that I guess he created. I mean, it kind of puts me in mind. I just watched Men in Black, the first one, the other day, and the gun that the alien that Will runs down that broke and then evaporated.
Yeah.
That Jay takes him to the monk's weapons jewelry store to find a replica of it, and it put me in mind of that gun with it. Yeah. And of course I know it's not Monk, but I think it's the same actor.
Right. The same actor. Yeah.
Shalhoub, Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub, yep.
Look, he can't move, says Davis. The radium gun has robbed him of his energy. So that is why they were experimenting with the radium, is to make weapons out of it.
I think so, yeah.
Here is your example. At that moment, the door opens. In lurches the glowing figure, dragging loot with it. You captured Superman? Yes, he won't interfere with our plans anymore. And then Chalmers and Davis go on about the overall plan that you see involves Bryson, who is been exposed to the radiation, and then Chalmers and Davis, who were in the control room watching the accident, which, it was accident.
Well, and I love how Chalmers is like, now I can explain at my leisure because I have nothing to fear from you.
Yep. Nobody can do anything to him because Superman is frozen also, so he has no worries. Hakuna Matata.
Yeah.
So we see the whole story laid out for us here. If we hadn't really put it together, I think there were enough clues to put most of it together, but maybe some of the specifics we didn't really know because nobody had voiced them yet. And then, of course, suddenly Superman, he wasn't affected by the radium. It's the wrong kind of radiation. Of course, it's not the green, blue, red, yellow, white, kinds of radiations that, anyways, that's kind of the joke. So, I only pretended to be overcome. Out with the truth, Davis. I know nothing beyond what Chalmers has said. You're lying. Tell the truth or I'll dash your skull against the wall.
Ugh.
That's a rather violent Superman, and there is absolutely no reason at this point to believe he would not do that.
Right.
If I were Davis, it's like, you win, dog. Nowadays, people are like, oh, come on, Superman doesn't kill. Come on.
Yeah.
But here, Superman, it's kind of like, nowadays, you would never see Batman pull a gun. Back in the original, Batman was pulling guns all the time.
Yep.
It was, I'll speak. Chalmers lied. He never intended to give the money to Bryson's wife. That's what he said earlier. What's more, that explosion wasn't accidental. He arranged it deliberately so that Bryson would commit those crimes for him. So he knew in making the gun that exposure to radium would not kill Bryson and would, I don't know, give him some kind of abilities. I can't imagine he would know exactly what. But we could then use this Walking Dead man because of his new abilities to do crime for us.
Yep.
Wow. Okay.
That's some superior thinking.
It's superior. Sure, we'll go with that. Immediately, Bryson turns on Chalmers. He grabs him by the throat, which we now know all he has to do is touch him. But not necessarily in doing that, but about the same time, that is the last of Bryson's life. So that was his dying gesture. He died. He kills Chalmers by juicing his throat and upper body with radiation burns, whatever. Superman also acknowledges why Superman had to look under the hood. I don't know. He doesn't know what Bryson looks like, so it's not going to confirm anything for him. The hooded figure collapses upon the slain. The hooded figure collapses upon the slain Chalmers. That's an interesting text. That terrible distorted face, peaceful at last. Yeah, so Superman. And Davis is here. They're dead, both of them. So actually, the only one to get punished is going to be Davis. He's going to have to take the rap for everything.
Yep.
Superman turns Davis over to the police later. Casey, I've got to admit I was mistaken. And Lois, of course, you ought to know by now, Sergeant, that Superman has dedicated himself to fighting crime. The end. So, no ha-ha laughing about who turned the story in first or anything like that. We've kind of gotten away from that. Yep. So, a solid, fun story. A lot happened.
Very confusing,
so much happened that they didn't have the room or didn't want to take the time to really flesh out and explain everything, except, at the end, I threw out the term info dump for something else. This last page and a half was definitely info dump because, all the things that they had arranged for the rest of the story, if you hadn't, as the reader, figured it out, well, they had to make sure to give it to you what was in their head the whole time. And so
it was nice to see them trying a little sci-fi, horror, super villain type of thing. Unfortunately, the supervillain dies at the end, so we're not going to see them come back. But it was, it's a very welcome change from gangsters and that kind of stuff, even though we've been loving that stuff as well. But they really tried to pack a lot in there. They tried to explain what they could. They just glossed over anything they couldn't explain. But it was fun. Yeah, it was quite enjoyable. I really liked it.
Now, immediately, I wonder if this storyline appeared in the strip or on radio, and it gave them more breadth to explain some of these things through the course of the adventure.
I don't know, maybe.
If anybody out there has knowledge of listening to us talk about this story and the strips and radio, if this story, and why change the name, the Radioactive Man or the Radium Man, if this was a story in either of the other media formats, I would be interested to find out and peruse those to see if they had more room to flesh it out a little bit. I mean, now we've got 13 pages, 12, 13, 14, something like that is typically what these installments are.
This was 12.
12. Okay. So I don't know, sometimes it really seems that they haven't adapted their storytelling to the amount of space that they have. And so they start out at a pace that isn't going to do it. And then at the end to finish it, they just dump the rest of the story out of their pot onto the, and it's like pacing, particularly with the story revelation, maybe not pacing as far as art, but the pacing of the story itself sometimes seems rushed or it not even. It's not evenly paced from first panel to last panel.
You really get that sense when you're getting to the last couple of pages that the writer at some point just went, oh, shit.
Yeah, really. Oh, I've got one page left and I've got half of my story. So, but good fun. Yeah, I like a little bit more the introduction of more sci-fi elements. Not that an alien from another planet is not sci-fi to begin with, but they've kind of tamped that aspect of Superman down as he is interacting with real world politics, gangsters, regular human issues and things like that. You kind of are led to forget that at its core, this should be a sci-fi kind of tale. So
yeah, and I think I talked about this last time. Maybe it was the time before last. Let me see if I can get this open. But one of the books I've been listening to is called Superman, the Unauthorized Biography by Glenn Weldon. And he kind of, as he's going through this early period in Superman's life, he basically, I'm assuming it's just a theory really, but he's saying that whereas you had characters like John Carter from Mars, who was a everyday dude who gets sent to an alien planet and it gives him superpowers. And then he has to fight these fantastical sci-fi things. This is an alien who comes to Earth and gets superpowers. And so they don't have him fighting a bunch of fantastical things. It's all Earth type.
Right, it's Earth stuff, right.
So, yeah. So it's that juxtaposition between those two types of storylines. But, it's nice when they do something like this every once in a while. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, yeah.
My favorite moment, I have to say, moment in this book, apart from getting a chance to see Superman save the train. It's always nice when Superman stops a train. The
more powerful than a locomotive. So
exactly.
We have to show that.
Exactly. The moment where the radioactive man throws the cop off the roof. There's something about that. Just the fact that he sees Superman coming, makes that decision like the Green Goblin did, and just picks the guy up bodily and throws him off the top of the roof. We don't see that kind of power in this book all that often, not coming from Superman.
Of course, the difference is this doesn't kill the cop.
Right.
But in your other example, it does kill the individual ultimately. The other reference you made.
I always liked how it was put in the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man, where he gets the same thing kind of happens. The Green Goblin is up on the bridge, but he's holding, what is it, like one of those cars that ride a
tram car, or tram.
Yeah. It's like a sky tram thing. It's full of kids and he's holding it up, threatening to drop it drop it down to their death. But in the other hand, he's holding Mary Jane.
Right.
And he says something to the effect of, and I'm sure I'll find the clip and stick it in here, but this is where the villain gives the hero a homicidal choice or something like that. It's like, you can let these people die or you can let her die. And
right.
This is why only fools are heroes. Because you never know when some lunatic will come along with the sadistic choice.
And Spider-Man, in the end, saves them both.
Yep. Well, that's what heroes do. They find a way. That's why they're the hero.
Yep. All right. Anything else you want to say about this?
No, I don't think so. It's an hour and a half of talking about it. I think I got it all out of my system.
In our next episode, billionaire Morgan Thorgenson's wayward daughter Nancy sets off on a pulpy gauntlet, sending Clark and Superman through cliffhangers, narrow escapes, and scandalous peril. That's coming up on episode 96, when Ed and I take a look at The Billionaire's Daughter, the Superman tale that appeared in Action Comics number 40, published by DC Comics in July of 1941. So until next time, folks, I'm Steven, that's Ed, and this was the Superman Super Show. Thanks for listening.
Ciao.
We want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Superman Super Show. Questions and comments can be directed to the Superman Super Show at gmail.com. If you enjoyed the show, you can help to boost our presence online by leaving a rating or review on your favorite podcast app. The Superman Super Show is a presentation of Steven or Else Media. For more nerdy content just like this, check out SoManyPodcasts.com or use the link in your show notes. Superman is a registered trademark of DC Comics and was created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster.
Superman is a copyrighted feature appearing in Action Comics magazine.
Oh, but wait, there's Superman. He'll save us. Superman! Superman! Wait, where are you going? Oh, to hell with him. We'll have to deal with these marauders ourselves.